Yeah, so that was the soundtrack from the classic movie E.T. Today I would like to review my recently converted fretless bass that I made from LTD J204, some kind of a low budget jazz bass. Pretty cool though. I basically made this video to answer some questions that I received from people who followed me with my previous video about this bass, showing you guys how I converted this bass. If you haven't watched the video, go ahead, click the link, and it's pretty cool. First thing that I would like to talk about is one comment that I got in one of the forums that I published the video. One of the guys there warned everyone else and said something like, don't use wood filler because wood filler shrinks and it can leave holes and gaps in the fret slits. Use only veneer because veneer is much stronger and something like that. Let me just say that, I don't know, it's been 6 months, something like that, and I cannot feel any shrinking or something like that. Even if it shrunk a little bit, still I don't feel it, so it's good enough for me. It's not my first fretless conversion. I made it to I have a fretless guitar that I made years ago and it's still working fine. I would like to mainly focus on the next question because this is the question that I received the most. A lot of people asked me how they can make the fingerboard stronger so it will sustain the erosion of the strings, the damaging from the string. And let me just start by saying that it was Jaco Pastorius that said in his instructional video he never practiced the fretless bass because the strings always eat the neck up. And it's true, it's some kind of a natural process of a fretless instrument that the strings always eat the shit out of the neck. But I did some research and there are some things that you can do to the neck, to the fingerboard, to make it more strong and more durable. And the first thing is finish. You can add some finish to the wood, and I found out that the most popular finish is the epoxy finish, based on, you guessed it, pretty thick layer of glossy plastic-like. It's extremely strong, probably the strongest, very recommended actually, but you have to consider that it might change the feel of the instrument and also the sound of the instrument as well. The next finish that I would like to talk about, and this is what I use, is to stain it with polyurethane. If you don't know what polyurethane is, some kind of a thick lacquer, deck paint, something like that. If you want to know how to properly apply polyurethane, go ahead, Google how to apply polyurethane. What I did, I took off the neck, of course, tape everything but the fingerboard. I took a piece of t-shirt, applied the first coat, waited for 4 hours, sanded it with fine grit sandpaper. Repeat the process for 3 times, so I'll have 3 coats. Let it dry for a couple of days, sanded it with sandpaper. Then I took a car polish and I just polished the shit out of this neck. I don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty glossy. It's almost glossy as the body finish, so it looks pretty cool and it feels ridiculously smooth, and I really like it. The next thing that I would like to talk about is adjusting the truss rod. I tightened the truss rod just a little bit more than the usual to give it a little bit of belly, and I found out that it's way more comfortable to play. I have really fast action from the strings. And finally, the bridge. I always like to set the bridge height pretty much parallel to the fingerboard contour, so it will be as close as possible to the fingerboard. It's really comfortable. But more important is adjusting the intonation, because on fretted instruments it's easier to adjust the intonation because all you have to do is to set the intonation so the overtone from the 12th fret and the 12th fret will sound as tuned as possible, so everything will be in tune. In fretless instruments it's a little bit different because the way you play each string, the position of your fingers is a little bit different from string to string. You may want to adjust the intonation specifically for the way you play the bass. Lastly, I shielded the entire cavities of the guitar to prevent as much as I can the pickup buzzing and the ground issues. If you want to know how to shield your own guitar, go ahead, Google how to shield your own guitar. So here's an example of the bass. Right now I'm with both pickups on and everything up. And now just the bridge pickup with the tone almost all the way down. Now if you want to get like a nice upright like sound, what I like to do, I like to bring everything down except the neck pickup, and I put the neck pickup, something that a lot of people forget that they can do it. I put the volume halfway, so in that case I'm not getting the maximum amount from the pickup, and the strings are kind of struggling to get through the pickup, and I can now pluck the instrument a little bit stronger and will sound like an upright. You can also add like some kind of a foam or something to mute a little bit of the strings, because upright bass has shorter sustain than electric bass. So, but I really like the way of just putting the neck pickup halfway volume, and it sounds pretty cool to me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. You can visit my blog, tuneformedia.com, and I'll see you next video. I almost forgot to mention, and some of you are gonna hate me for this, some of you may be going to appreciate me for this, and most of you probably aren't familiar with, I changed the strings from round wound strings to flat wound strings. Now, flat wound are some kind of silky smooth texture strings, and it doesn't have that springy wound texture. It's pretty much the main reason that the neck is damaged by the string. Flat wound strings has a little bit more darker tone, less overtone qualities, a little bit more classic 60s style bass tone, not like the round wound modern tone that it has. Goodbye.